What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Adventure Outpost. Another weekend has come and gone. It is once again time to talk those juicy box office numbers. But quickly, as always, before we begin, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, drop some comments down below, and let's get this party rolling. It was a wild time here at the box office this past weekend. Not only did we have a 3-day weekend, we had our 5-day weekend. That's right, the big Thanksgiving Day weekend is here, and we got a lot to discuss inside of it. There was some expectations that were met, some expectations that fell wildly below par, and some stuff that is doing remarkably well for this weekend. And we're going to take a look at all those good, juicy numbers right now, and let's go right to that chart and waste no time diving into it. To a surprise, nobody that hanging on in that first spot was Black Panther Wakanda. It is now joining the Hat Trick Boys in a chart that we'll take a look at later. But in its third week, Wakanda Forever only drops 31%, taking in almost $46 million to bring its total domestic haul to $367 million off of a $250 million budget. This is a huge success for Disney. This is a huge success for Marvel. They continue to be movies that just know how to put butts in the seats and know how to rack up that total when it comes to that bang for your buck. They are printing money right now. They are going to continue to be printing money, and the only question now is going to see where is it going to end up. So it is no surprise to me that this movie ended up still taking #1 spot in the Thanksgiving race with all these movies, especially considering there's a lot of factors there. And I think the biggest one overall is that there weren't many movies designed for the Thanksgiving weekend audience. And what I mean by that is the fact that usually around the Thanksgiving time, for all my years working in the theaters, what I've noticed the most is that when it's around the holidays, there is a certain type of movie that most people want to go see. It's very family centric that's going to come out to theaters Thanksgiving weekend, Halloween weekend, Thanksgiving weekend, and Christmas weekend. These are times for holiday movies. They want to be cheered. They want rip-rousing adventure. They want fun. They want heartfelt moments. They want feel-good stories. There were not a lot of movies that were coming out this weekend that had any of those themes that were going to drive audiences. So we stayed very low this weekend. I didn't even mention it before, but right now we're going to take a look here at the 3-day weekend. We're also going to take a look at the 5-day weekend. But if we just look at the 3-day weekend, we were actually below our previous week from last weekend, which is insane considering last weekend really all we had that came out was The Menu and She Said, and was fighting against Black Panther in its second week. So that alone was able to still manage to make more than the 3-day weekend from Thanksgiving Day weekend. That is crazy to me. That is absolutely insane. We were 3.4% down from last week, only being able to bring in $89 million in the top 10 for the 3-day weekend. That is absolutely absurd. And it just goes to show that a lot of the movies that they were releasing for this Thanksgiving weekend just did not cut the mustard. It did not bring anything to audiences that made them want to get the whole family and go to the theater. And that's a shame. I think there's a model that really has to be looked at here with distributors and exhibitors, studios and everything, is that not only is it important to be making the right movie that people want to go see, but it's important to be releasing said movie at the right time. Like there's just, it's a lost art about knowing when to release your movie. I feel like a lot of things just ended up being dumping grounds for spots now. Like you're still in that scenario still for some things where they're just dumping movies. It's insane that we have forgotten the lost art of putting out movies when they should be put out. Like a movie that I've been seeing the trailer for in theaters for movies recently that I think would have been a good movie for this weekend was that Tom Hanks movie that's coming out in January called A Man Called Otto. And it's basically he's a curmudgeon that meets a family that moves in next door, and they end up making him have a heart of gold once again, and it gets him in tune with his emotions. It's basically The Grinch without Christmas. But that is a feel-good movie right there. You know what you're going to get. We're going to go in, we're going to see a dude who's locked himself away from the world, but he's going to learn through dealing with people and these young kids that there is still heart and love inside of him, and he's going to grow to be a better person. That's a feel-good movie right there. You know what else would have been a perfect movie for this weekend? Creed 3. We saw what happened when they released Creed 2 way in the day for Thanksgiving weekend, and it did absolute gangbusters. And it's because it's a feel-good movie. It's a movie that people want to go, they want to cheer together, they want to just have their heart warm together, and then they want to go back out into the family world with all their family for the rest of the holiday weekend and just like ride that warm feeling for the rest of the weekend. So releasing movies that do not hit those marks are just did not help make Thanksgiving weekend be the weekend that we needed it to be here this year. We needed it to be a statement that said we were back on the right track, and it didn't quite get there. It just missed the snuff. There's a few more things that we'll talk about that might have been contributing factors, but I think that was a huge indicator that we were in for a rough Thanksgiving weekend. In second place is one of those other things we're going to talk about right now, and that is Disney's new movie Strange World, managing to take in $11.9 million, bringing its total domestic haul to $18 million off of a dear fucking God, $180 million budget. This here is reason number 2 why this weekend didn't cut the mustard. We're going to take a look at a chart also right now. We're gonna pause and everything else. We're gonna go take a look at this chart, and this is the last 5 years of Thanksgiving weekends. And now if we take a look here and we look back, if you look at all of the entries on this movie, on this list, one thing is painfully apparent. It is that the animated movie rules Thanksgiving weekend. And this is a time that families want to go with their kids. They want to take them to a good movie, sometimes Disney movies, and they want to be entertained. They want to have that family experience together. And those animated movies were the king for those weekends. And if you're taking a look here at this chart, we are not getting it this year. And I think Strange World absolutely missed the mark on getting those families into the theater. So if we take a look here, way back in the day in 2018, Ralph Breaks the Internet released, giving a 3-day haul of $203 million and a 5-day haul of almost $300 million. In 2019, Frozen 2 debuted and did 167 over a 3-day and 243 over the 5-day. 2020, we saw the massive dip. You knew it was going to happen because of the COVID, but we still managed to put in $13 million there over 3-day for a $19 million 5-day haul with The Croods 2, A New Age. That's as hopeful as you can be during that hellish time that we were living in 2020. Then you looked in 2021, we were on the uptick again, so close to hitting back over 100 mil. We got 92 million on that 3-day, but we did hit over 100 mil on the 5-day weekend with 137 million with Encanto. And now you're here in 2022, and Black Panther 2 is the movie there in the #1 seed, not Strange World. But you were really expecting, like, this is the time that Disney holds court. Thanksgiving is their time to hold court for their animated movies, and they wildly missed the mark this year. I actually saw Strange World yesterday, and I don't think it's a terrible movie. I think it's a very interesting movie at times. I think there is times where it's boring and it sags a lot, but I didn't hate the movie. It's still enjoyable. However, I can completely understand why families were turned off by this movie and families did not come see this movie, and that is because it is a very niche market idea. I get the idea, I get what you were going for, I get what you wanted to do, but I don't think there was an audience that enjoyed enough of the stuff that you were paying homage to really put asses in the seats. Most kids have no idea what any of the homages are in Strange World to the classic 50s era of sci-fi and all that, like Jules Verne and H.G. Wells type stuff, that it just kind of flies over their head. So while they're looking at pretty images, there's really nothing there that's getting them laughing or enjoying. I watched the movie with halfway decent, probably a third full of people, and I think I heard the kids laugh twice the entire movie. Like, that is not a good sign. Never where you want to be. This movie was a colossal miscommunication. It was something that should not have been made. I think it was something that was probably thrown out in the writer's room and bumped back and forth, but it was something that they probably should have given up in the writer's room. It's an interesting idea. I enjoy it simply because I love heady sci-fi shit, but this is one that I completely understand why it completely missed the mark with audiences, and it's a shame. And I think that's a huge reason when you take a look at that low number where we dipped even, we couldn't even beat last year, which is a shame. Like, we needed to at least continue our up trek, and we couldn't even beat last year. And I think a huge reason of that is because the Disney animated movies suffered so hard this year. If you look, Disney animated movies absolutely wrecked Thanksgiving weekend. So the fact that this one did not perform up to par is, I think, a huge indicator of why this Thanksgiving weekend was so low compared to other ones. A movie, however, that expanded on our expectations and absolutely destroyed them is our third place movie, and that is Glass Onion, a Knives Out story, another new movie. This is actually just a limited release for a week long for Thanksgiving before it drops on Christmas on Netflix. It managed to take in $9.4 million. It played in less than 700 theaters, and it beat out so many other movies that opened up in wide release. That is so fucking impressive. It has a total domestic haul of $13 million off of a $40 million budget. Now, obviously, we will never be able to truly know at what point does it make its budget back or not, considering that most of its run and everything is going to be displayed in subscriber and watch time on Netflix. So it's hard to follow that metric of how much it made. But that $13 million right there over this limited run in less than 700 theaters is absolutely insane. That is a amazing total to make on that amount of screens. That is just so fucking impressive on their part. It's a shame that it does not get a wide release. It's a shame that it got bought out by Netflix and that they're going to be thrown into Netflix, the sequel and the next one. I hope with the third one they do this again too, because obviously this worked phenomenally well for them. I saw the movie the other night too. As soon as I knew that they were going to be releasing it in theaters for a week, I made sure that was, if I was going to see only one movie this Thanksgiving weekend, it was going to be that one. I love the first Knives Out movie. I loved this one. It is so much fun. It is such a good sequel to this first one. It just builds upon, and freaking I can watch over and over again Daniel Craig do Benoit Blanc. Is just absolutely phenomenal. This is a huge win. I was so happy to see that this movie made it up into third place. It exceeded even when I was just hoping it would make it into the top 10. I was like, if it makes it into the top 10, I'll be happy. That's a big win. If it could break into the top 5, even better. And we're sitting pretty at number 3. That is a huge win in and of itself. In fourth place is another new movie, the Korean War movie Devotion. It takes in $5.9 million to bring its total domestic haul to $9 million off of a $90 million budget. Dear howdy, that movie's got a lot of work to do if it's going to make that budget back and make some money. Not where you want to be. It looks like war movies are not as profitable as they once were. You don't see too many of them anymore. It's a shame that movie did not be able to, but like once upon a time you could release a movie like that, now it's going to open to $20 million on a weekend. And here we are in this day and age, and it can't even make 10. And it was a $90 million budget. That's fucking insane. That's so much money. It's insane. I always question when I see something like that. It's like, where did all that money go? And it's not even like there's huge stars in it. Like, not to discount anything from Jonathan Majors or Glenn Powell, who I think both are phenomenal actors, but let's be honest here. There's no way they cost $20 million to be in this movie. Like, I think probably the most would be Jonathan Majors, maybe 10. I don't know if he's up to 10 yet, but possibly. There's no way Glenn Powell's making $10 million a movie yet. So where was the budget? Where was the budget on this? Like, it's so insane. So this one has a trek. If it's going to make back its budget, we're going to keep watching. We're going to see where it gets. But this one's got its work cut out for it. I haven't gotten a chance to see it yet. I do want to see it. I'm going to try and see it this weekend or during the week this week. So hopefully I can get around to this movie. And rounding us out in the top 5 is The Menu in its second week, dropping 42.3%, taking in $5.2 million to bring its total domestic haul to $18 million off of a $30 million budget. This movie just quietly making money. If it could continue to just quietly make money like this on the road to Christmas, this movie will make back its budget and make itself a little bit of chunk change, which is great because the movie is phenomenal. As I've said before, if you haven't seen this movie, you should go check this movie out. If you want to go to the theaters and watch something, it is a great movie. And although this is another one that I talk about, which, like, as amazing as this movie is, I don't know if it's a good Thanksgiving release. Like, it's definitely solid counter programming to people, because not everybody wants to just go and do the family feel good weekend movie. Like, obviously some people want some variety, so that is a good counter programming one. But still, like, you would think you just wanted to make a teeny tiny bit more, and it's not doing it right there. But I think I remember seeing somewhere that it was the most profitable for the Searchlight movies in its opening weekend. So it's got some bit of an impressiveness to it. Hopefully it can continue this trek and it can make back its budget and start printing itself a little money. On to the back 5, we've got Black Adam in the 6th spot in its 6th week, dropping 27.4%, taking in $3.3 million to bring its total domestic haul to $162 million off of a $195 million budget. I keep saying it. Black Adam has got its work cut out for it, and it continues to flounder. It continues to struggle to make back even its initial budget here domestically. Not a good sign, never really what you want to be, especially considering the price tag on this movie, that on top of just that initial budget with everything that it has going on for it. And while this might be the restart for the DCEU that they needed, it's definitely not the monetary restart that they were hoping for. It is not printing the kind of money that I think they were expecting or hoping for this one to do. So this one is definitely going to to end up, it's going to sit comfortably somewhere in the middle, but it's not going to be the big juggernaut that you were hoping that DC needed as a kick in the ass into this new start for them. In 7th place is The Fabelmans. In its 3rd week, opening to way more screens, which is why we're looking at a positive 2,374%. It takes in $2.2 million to bring its total domestic haul to $3.4 million off of a $40 million budget. I can't wait to see this movie. I'm actually seeing it tomorrow for my birthday. Yes, you heard that right. Tomorrow is my birthday, or at least when this video is posted tomorrow, it will already be my birthday. But as of making this video, tomorrow is my birthday, and I will be going to see The Fabelmans. This is my most anticipated movie for the fall. Steven Spielberg is my favorite director of all time. He is so influential and the quintessential director for my generation. It is insane that we're looking at a time where even a Steven Spielberg movie is having trouble opening. Once upon a time, you could release, if you knew a Spielberg movie was coming out, that was a guaranteed #1 opening spot. It was going to make a decent amount of money. And here we are right now with a slow rollout. Not that a slow rollout isn't bad for movies like this. Oh, hello. We got a little doggy. We got a little doggy. Say hello, little doggy. Not that a movie is bad to have a slow rollout like this, because obviously it's doing well, that it's continuing to be positive week over week. I just hope that it can continue to pull that off with its word of mouth, and it has stellar reviews right now. So I'm hoping as it continues to roll out in more and more theaters, it continues to start making money, and it can make back its budget, and it can continue its trek on to being that Academy Award winner that I know so many people hope that it will be. I can't wait to see it tomorrow. I'm so excited. I can't wait. Love you, Stevie. In 8th place is Bones and All. In its 2nd week, another movie that is opening in way more theaters, why we see another positive 1,721%. It takes in $2.2 million to bring its total domestic haul to $3.7 million off of a $20 million budget. This is another movie that's following much like The Fabelmans in that it is starting in low releases and it's building up word of mouth and opening in more theaters. This is another movie that I do really want to see. They're both playing in a theater nearby me, so I'm hoping during the week I'm going to be able to go get out and check these movies out. Well, obviously we're seeing The Fabelmans tomorrow, but I need to get out and check Bones and All as well because it looks like a fun movie. Will it be able to make back that $20 million budget? We don't know. We're going to keep watching as it goes over. It might get close depending on how this word of mouth goes and if it continues to hold strong here in the top 10, but it all just remains to be seen in the next few weeks, especially with Avatar coming out. In 9th place, the only 2 movies besides Black Adam that were able to hold into the top 10 here from last week. We have in 9th place Ticket to Paradise in its 6th week, dropping 42%, taking in $1.8 million to bring its total domestic haul to $65 million off of a $60 million budget. And in last place, we have The Chosen, still hanging strong in the top 10. I know I said last week, enjoy it while you can, because there's no fucking way you'd be here next week, but somehow it's managed to stake its claim and stay strong in here, probably because of its religious connotations and the fact that we're over Thanksgiving weekend. Some people like to take in a nice faith-based entertainment. So The Chosen manages to hang out in the 10th spot here in its 2nd week, though, dropping a thunderous 81.9%. That is astronomical. It takes in $1.5 million to bring its total domestic haul to $13.4 million. But now we set aside our 3-day weekend and we open up that window a little bit more. We take a look at our 5-day Thanksgiving weekend extravaganza. We managed to make a decent amount of money more than that. If we take a look here at the chart, we managed to make $128 million if we add on those 2 days. Still a drop of 6.5% over the previous week, but still a nice little total right there for us. We take a look here quickly at our totals. It doesn't, so Black Panther, adding 2 more days to it, still remains in #1, taking in $64 million to bring its total domestic haul to the same amount we just heard. Strange World in the 2nd spot brought in $18.6 million. Glass Onion brought in $13.2 in the 3rd spot. Devotion brought in $9 in the 4th spot. The Menu in the 5th spot brought in $7.3 million. We take a look here at the backside. We have Black Adam brought in $4.5 million. And then we have our actual only surprise here in the top 10 is if we expand out of the top 3 and we go to the 5-day weekend, Bones and All and The Fabelmans actually switch places. Bones and All takes the 7th spot in its 2nd week, actually bringing in 3.5 over those 5 days, whereas The Fabelmans in the 8th place spot is only able to bring in 3.1. Rounding it out right back there again still is Ticket to Paradise. It brought in 2.6 and The Chosen bringing in 2.2. As always, we take a look at our top 10 worldwide and domestic. We take first a look here at our worldwide charts. Top Gun Maverick holding strong in the first place with $1.4 billion. Jurassic World right behind it with $1 billion. Doctor Strange in third with $955 million. Minions right behind that with $937 million. The Batman with $770 million. Thor Love and Thunder with $760 million. Black Panther Wakanda Forever with only 3 weeks in, quickly rising up the ranks, already made a whopping $675 million worldwide. Does it have it in it the next few weeks, this next week or two before Avatar comes out to get itself up to that $1 billion mark? That remains to be seen. Followed right behind that with Watergate Bridge with $626 million, Moon Man with $458, and still enjoying its time in the 10th spot is Fantastic Beasts with $405 million. We take a look here also at our domestic chart. Top Gun in the first spot still with $716 million. Doctor Strange right behind it with $411. Jurassic World with $376 million. Minions Rise of Gru with $369. The Batman right on the money there with it with $369. Black Panther looking to overtake those two movies by next weekend with $367 million. It's possible it jumps up into the third spot by next weekend, passing both the Batman, Minions, and Jurassic World Dominion. Right behind Black Panther is Thor Love and Thunder with $343 million. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 with $190. Black Adam sitting in the 9th spot with $162. Does it have it in it to get it at least over Sonic the Hedgehog 2? And rounding us out in last place is Elvis with $151. Now, as always, before we sign off here at the end, we love to take a look at our Gone But Not Forgotten. And oh boy, was there a slew of movies that dropped out of the top 10. Some that have been hanging on for a while, some that only got to just barely taste the glory of the top 10. But we take a look here now at our chart of our fallen heroes. We have 5 movies that dropped out of the top 10 from last week. We had Smile after 8 amazing weeks on the top 10, finally bows out after making its whopping money. The Prey for the Devil, after 4 weeks on the chart, bows out. Banshees of Inisherin, after 5 weeks on the chart, bows out. Lyle Crocodile, after spending 7 weeks on the chart, bows out. And Poor Old She Said, after spending 1 week on the chart, drops out of the top 10, just missing out, sitting in the number 11th spot. You guys did your time. You made your money. You staked your claim. You did what you could. But now you're on to greener passages. We will see you in home video release. And as always, we salute you. We take a look at 2 more charts here before we say our goodbyes for this lovely episode of Box Office Numbers. And it is adding Black Panther to the three-peat boys, the hat trick boys. That's right, our bevy of superhero movies this year that have managed to hold on to the box office for 3 weeks gunning. Black Panther becomes the latest in the party. Let's take a look here at the chart. We've got all the movies that held number 1 for more than 1 week. You got all your 2 weekers. But if we take a look, you had Batman in March pulling off the three-peat with March 4th, March 11th, and March 18th. You had Doctor Strange do it in May with May 6th, May 13th, and May 20th. We had Black Adam do it just a month ago in October with October 21st, the 28th, and November 4th. And then adding us to the party now is Black Panther with taking the top spot in the 11th, the 18th, and now this past weekend of the 25th. With the disappointing numbers from Strange World here this past weekend, it was interesting to go and take a look and see just how much it stood to lose. And it looks like, based on our numbers and what could be happening for the forecast, they are saying that Strange World could lose anything from up to $150 million, which is absolutely insane and maybe putting us up there for one of the craziest box office bombs of 2022. I know we had a whole bunch of lists on here, so we're going to take a look here at our movies. It's been a minute since we take the look at the box office bomb, but we're going to go here now and take a look on there. We have all of our movies here that are considered the box office bombs for 2022. You got Moonfall right there at the top, $146 million budget, $59 million gross. 3,000 Years of Longing, a $60 million budget and $17 million gross. The King's Daughter at a $40 million budget, grossing only $1.8 million. Amsterdam was bad enough to join this ranking with an $80 million budget and only grossing $30 million. Memory made $40 million budget off of $13.6 million gross. Liam Neeson right behind himself again with Blacklight, another $43 million budget, making $15.5 million. The action thriller, The 355, was anywhere from $40 to $75 million, taking in only $27 million. Paws of Fury with $40 $45 million, takes in only $28 million. The Northman, $90 million budget, takes in only $69.1 million. The Bob's Burgers movie with a $38 million budget, only taking in $13.6. Bros, another movie we talked about when we last looked at this chart, with a $22 million budget, only taking in $14 million. And Easter Sunday leading the pack at the end here with $17 million budget and only a $13 million gross. So the question now is, will Strange World have anything in it to make some money over the next few weeks? It's going to end up being a loss for them. It's going to end up being a bomb. There is no way it's going to make back that $180 million price tag, especially if it did not have a gangbusters weekend here in its opening weekend over a holiday weekend. This movie is going to end up being a financial disappointment. It's a shame to see. It's never fun when we have to watch a movie miserably fail at the box office. So now the question is going to end up being is, where in this chart are we going to end up slotting Strange World? Just how much money is this movie going to end up losing? We're going to keep charting it throughout the weeks here and just see how much of a turd it ends up being. Again, another such a shame for this movie. It's a fun movie. It's pretty great. If you like sci-fi, if you like heady, weird sci-fi, it's worth going and checking out. It is a decently fun movie. It's not going to break the bank. It's not going to change anything. It's not one of those ones that's going to be like, holy crap, I just saw a movie. It's one of those ones you're going to be like, yeah, that was a movie. You'll probably forget about it in a little while, but you know what? Only so many movies can be fucking perfect. And that'll do it for all of us here at The Numbers. It was a stellar weekend. It was a wild weekend to watch domestically. It was a wild weekend to watch working. This was definitely one of the just barest holiday weekends I've ever worked. Just absolutely quiet. I've never worked. I always work Black Fridays. As long as I've worked at a movie theater, I have always done the Black Friday shift. It ends up sometimes being the busiest single day at a theater that you can work, because people go out, they do their shopping, and when they're done with their shopping, the whole family comes in and they go and they catch a movie. It was one of the craziest days that I've worked. It always was a day that you looked at that was going to be like, you knew it was going to be hell. Before COVID, there were days on our Black Fridays where we were doing upwards of 2,200 people in a day, sometimes up to 24. Obviously, I'm in a smaller theater, so the bigger theaters can do that. To bigger theaters, they look at that and they're like, 2,200, we do that in one round. But we are a smaller theater, so for us, 2,200 is a lot of business to do in a day. This past weekend, the Black Friday was the easiest I'd ever worked. We did less than 1,000 people, and I heavily attribute that to the fact that there just weren't movies that people wanted to see. The Strange World underperforming and not doing well enough to get any of the families into the seats absolutely hurt us. Not having family show up is a huge hit to the box office total, especially when you work in a theater. You see it. If the families aren't there, it does not feel busy at all, because even though seniors were showing up for movies like The Menu and Devotion and Glass Onion, they do not spend money at the concession stand, so they are not big breadwinners when they come in through this building. For us, they are just people that are coming to see movies. We need people buying snacks, and that's where that family demographic comes in. That's why they're so huge here Thanksgiving weekend. That's why it's so important to get out that big animated movie, and that just did not snuff up to par this year. Black Panther was the only movie that was really bringing in and making it feel busy at any given time on a day. It was crazy that was the only movie that was managing to really pull people in. The Menu would get some. What were the other movies? Devotion would get some, but for the most part, we didn't get Glass Onion, the Knives Out movie at my theater, so I didn't have to worry about that one. So there was only so much that you can do. There was only so much business we can make. It didn't help that where my theater is located, they also on Thanksgiving weekend end up doing a tree lighting ceremony in the town. So everybody goes to that. So nobody comes to the theater, which hurt us even more. It was just thing after thing after thing. It just, even it raining today was not enough to save the weekend for us. People still didn't come in. It rained and they were like, it's raining, and there's still nothing worth me going to the theater for, even in this rain. So it was one of the craziest weekends to work, simply because it was so alien to what I usually expect this weekend. And it continues to go to show that you can never have any safe bets when it comes to the box office and what you expect certain movies to do and certain business times of the year to do. So it is going to be wildly interesting to see the rest of December with Avatar: The Way of Water coming out and the whole Christmas week going on. It is going to be a wild ride of seeing just how busy it ends up being. But that'll do it for all of us here at the Outpost this week. Let me know down below if you caught any of these Thanksgiving movies, what you thought of them, if you're catching anything this week, what you're waiting for, what you thought of, all the good stuff. I'd want to hear anything you got, what you want to say. Drop it on down below. I will see you guys all for next weekend's box office numbers. The only wide release movie we have is the Christmas holiday action movie Violent Night starring David Harbour. Looks absolutely silly and ridiculous, and I can't wait to go check it out. So catch us next weekend when we discuss all those juicy box office numbers and see if Violent Night has any tricks in its sleeve to best Black Panther. But until that next video, you have been you, I have been me. These are the movies we love so much, and until next time, adventure on.